Hi. In our last session, we were discussing about different modes of the router. Those are user mode, privilege mode, and like global configuration mode, and like interface mode, and some other modes actually. Okay, and then we discussed about the rules of assigning an IP address to the router as well as the computers or the hosts which are connected to the network. Okay, and then now in this session we'll discuss about like what is routing. Okay, and different types of routings we have available. Okay, so routing is nothing but like forwarding the packet from one network to another network. Okay, so if you remember, like while we are discussing about a router, so what is the router functionality? It has to determine the best path and forward the traffic to on the best path. Correct? This is the
Yeah.
functionality of the router. Okay, so here forwarding the packets from on the best path is called routing. Okay, so forwarding the packet from one network to another network is called routing. Suppose like we have like a number of networks. This is one network, this is another network, this is another network, this is another network. Okay, so here we have like two routers are there. Okay, so which are connected to each other. Okay, so here forwarding, like if you can say here we have one router, and it's connected, one network is there. Okay,
Okay.
so here if you can see, so this is the source computer and this is the destination computer. Okay, if they want to communicate with each other, so they have two ways to reach, right? This is one way. Like let me tell you, I'm mentioning a here. Okay, a a a so path A is available and path B also is there.
Okay.
Okay, so here if you can say from A to B, what is the best path? If A to B it want to reach, okay. So let me mention like this. Okay, I think ABC is not good. Okay, one second. What I will do, I'll just like write a neat diagram so that it will be clear for you to understand. Okay, so we have network A is connected to one router.
Vardhan.
Some other routers are there. In network B. Okay, so here we know like it is connected to one router and it is directly connected here. So there are many LAN networks that is connected, but between A to B only I'm discussing here. Okay, so if you
Okay.
want to reach from A to B, what we have from this router, first he has to reach this router 1, router 2, router 3, and router 4 are available. Okay, so if you want to reach from computer A to computer B, how many paths we have available?
Two paths.
Two paths is there. This is one path and this is another path. So
Yeah.
consider this path is called X path. This
Okay.
is Y path.
Okay.
So what is the best path to reach B?
Y path.
Y path, right? Why? I mean, how we are mentioning that? Because we have only two routers and
Two
it's directly
routers.
connected to that. And here, if you can see, we have four routers to reach B. Okay,
Mm.
so here this router will decide to forward the traffic on the best path. That is called routing. So
Okay.
forwarding the packets from one network. This is one network, and this is another network. This forwarding the packet, like to another network in the best path from the routing table. So in the routing table, we'll discuss about what is routing table and all. But forwarding the traffic on the best path by using routing table is called routing. Is it clear?
Yes.
So routing makes possible, for two or more networks to communicate with each other. So by using this routing table information only, one network to other network communication is possible, right? That's what it
Yeah.
means. And here, like routing table consists of only the best routes to for every destination. Okay, so what is the best route here? We have two paths, but what is the best path? This is the best path,
Y.
right? So
Yeah.
to reach B, this router consists of only best path. How to reach that. It won't show all these things path. Okay, that is called like a routing and like what is functionality. So here we have three types of routing we have available: static routing, default routing, and dynamic
Dynamic.
routing. Okay, let's discuss about like what is static routing, what is dynamic routing, default routing, what is dynamic routing. Okay, let's start. So like static route is nothing but, okay, in the router a network administrator have to log in, okay, and he will go to global configuration mode, and he will define the routes. Okay, so I mean to say, only a network administrator can log into this router and can add the routing table.
Okay.
Okay, that is what it meant by static routes. Okay, so it is configured manually by the network administrator. Okay, and so here, like this is, you understood right now. So suppose, this router is there and it is connected to multiple things. Okay, so here one network is there and here another network is there, network A, network B. So here some network C is there. Okay, so if you want to configure the routes in this router, okay, so we need to be aware of which networks this router is connecting to. Suppose you are configuring, like routing table in this router R2 and R3. Okay, so once you are configuring routes in the R2 and the R3, okay, so we need to aware which networks this router connected to. Okay, that's what it means, like destination network ID, in the sense like what are the networks which are connected to that. Okay, we need to aware of those subnets. Okay, then only, not only the subnets, some IPs also, like we need to be aware of these things, which network is connected to. And so here, like so suppose, like in an organization will be having, hundreds of routers will be there, hundreds of routers will be there. So like, if you want to have, add one route. Okay, so we need to add that. Suppose, like we have this setup. Okay, so we added and everything is working fine. For some reason, like one more router need to be configured in the organization. Okay, so we have connected. So once you connected the new router, and there should be some network connected to that. So here, to reach this destination, we need to configure manual routes in all the routers which are already installed, configured. Okay, so for small, like if you have some routers, like it is okay to log into each router and configure. What if you're having, like 100 plus hundreds of routers? So each and every time you won't be able to log into this router, each 100 routers, and you can't configure, right? It is very, like I can say not difficult, but time consuming work, right? You got my point?
Yeah, yes, yes.
So it's a time consuming point. That's why static route is only used for small organizations.
Okay.
Okay, and some AD value concept is there. I'll tell you what is AD value. For now, you just keep it in mind that for static route, AD value is 0 or 1.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll tell you about administrative distance in the later on. But for now, what I want you to understand is that what is static route? Static route is configured by network administrator manually. Okay, to configure the static routes, we need to be aware of what are all the destination subnets which are connected to the router. Okay, and it is used for small organizations only. Why? Because if you have new router or new something, if you want to add, you have to add that route in all the routers. Okay, which is time consuming task, and it will sometimes we may miss to add the route in some other routers also if you have hundreds of routers. Okay, so
Okay.
that's why it's not recommended for the bigger organizations. Okay, that is about static
Okay.
routing. Okay, so like what is the advantage of static routing and what is the disadvantage? We will see that. Okay, so one second. Yeah, so here, in case of advantages are, like here network administrator is configuring the routes, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so whatever the I know, like suppose this router is there, this router is there. Okay, so this is connected to one network, this is also connected to one network. Suppose here one network, one network. Okay, so here while pointing the routes, okay, only A network want to reach C, but B is not required. So it means you will write the routes only in this router, but if you won't write the routes in this router, you won't write. So whatever
Okay.
is required, only that can be configured by using static route. But in case of dynamic, I'll tell you later on. But for now, whatever the routes it require, only that can be configured by using destination subnet by the network administrator.
Okay.
Okay. I know, like so here, like CPU and bandwidth, when like bandwidth utilization, it won't be available because
Mm.
like I mean, we have like once you define the static route, because based on that only it will just forward the paths. Okay, like it won't be much utilization on the CPU and all. Now,
Okay.
what are the disadvantages? So if you have like smaller networks, it is possible. For larger networks, we discussed, in the last here, like if you have any new network added, it will be very difficult, to update everything there. Okay.
Yep.
So each and every network has to configure manually. This is the same point only. Okay. And network administrator must understand the subnet and how to reach each router correctly. Okay. So what it means, like he need to be aware of, like this router is connected to how many subnet, how many LAN, and one more router is there. So it will be, if simple architecture is there, it will be easy. But if you have complex architecture with hundreds of routers and hundreds of networks, it will be very difficult for the static routes. Okay. And if you see this point, any changes in the network, it has to be updated in all the routers. Okay. So here we discuss, no. So any change in the sense, we are adding one new network. Okay. So here we have to update in hundreds of routers, right? Whatever it is available in case of static routing. So if you remove that network also, again, we need to log into each thing and we have to remove that routes, right?
Yeah.
So this is all, like it's a disadvantage of static routing. The main advantage is that we can allow route only to the subnets, like if it is only required. Okay.
Okay.
So it's a kind of security feature it is. So this is about,
Okay.
advantage and disadvantage of static routing. Let's see, how to configure the static route in the router. Okay. So let's see. So here we know the modes of the router, that is user mode, privilege mode, and global configuration mode. So can you tell me which mode it is?
Config, you are like
Global configuration mode. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you want to configure anything, we need to come into global configuration mode. Then only we can configure anything. We have, enable mode, privilege mode,
Config.
and config. This is one configuration mode or global configuration mode, we can say. Okay.
Okay.
So we came into global configuration mode, and we have to suppose I'll tell you. Okay. So this is the command. IP route is the command, and what is the destination network ID? Okay. So let me tell you an example here. Okay. So here we have one network. Here we have one network. Suppose. Okay. So it has to reach here. Okay. So while configuring routes in this router, okay, so we need to aware of what is the destination subnet where it is connected to. Okay, so that subnet details, the destination network ID. We know, right, what is network ID, what broadcast we discussed already in the earlier classes. So network ID is nothing but to represent the network, we need to have network ID. Okay, suppose this is, like 10.0.0.0/24 network. Okay, so then the network ID is 10.0.0.0. So 10.0.0.0 is the network ID. So what is the subnet mask? /24, right? So for /24, what is the subnet mask? 255.255.255.0. Okay, so what is the next hop? So if you want to reach this network, this is the entry point, right? So entry point of the network, this is the next hop IP address. Okay, this is how we will write. Okay, with respect to IP address. So sometimes we write, like routing tables based on the exit interface also. So which exit interface it is. Okay. So this is how, like the commands what we use for static routing. Okay. So if you want to see what all the routes it is configured in the router. Okay. So here if you observe, okay, we are just viewing the configuration, right? View. We are just viewing the configuration. So so in those cases, we use privilege mode. Only hash symbol is there, na? So in the privilege mode, we can check show IP route. Show IP route. If you give, it will show all the static routes which is available in the router. Okay, is it clear? How to configure the static route and how to verify the static routes. Okay, so let's go with some examples. Okay, so here, like we have one network. Suppose like consider, some ABC organization. Okay, so here we have router 1 and router 2. So what are the rules of assigning an IP address? 4 rules are there, right?
Yes.
So let's see these are justified or not. Okay, the first rule is the LAN and WAN interface of the router connected with different IPs. It is justified. Okay, and second one is the LAN and the LAN interface should be connected with same network. It is also justified. So what are the third one? Routers facing with each other, they have to connect with same network, so it's also justified. And whatever the router interfaces are there, everything, all the interface should be in the different networks. So here we have two interface only, 1 and 2. They're configured with some two different networks. So 4 rules is justified. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now, suppose, okay, so consider that this is network, one network, and this is another network. Okay. So here, consider that like this is A and this is some X computer. Okay. So if A computer want to send some information to computer X, what happen? First it will send to the switch. Okay. In the switch, it will check for its MAC address. It won't be aware of, but somehow it got the MAC address by router will send MAC address, right?
Route table.
We discussed about
Yeah.
all these things earlier. So for now, like leave out MAC address. Okay. It is go to switch. Switch, it will check the MAC address of this IP address. It won't be available. Then it will forward the traffic to router. Okay. So in the router, okay, in the router, it will check the routing table. Routing table for the destination subnet. So what is the destination subnet here? This is the destination IP address, right? 192.168.1.2 is the destination IP address. Okay. So it will check the destination route here. Okay. So we want, so here, this is the destination subnet, right? We need to add the route in the R1 router. Okay. So while adding the route, okay, router 1 is the router 1, this router name, and we are in the global configuration mode.
Configuration.
IP route, this is the command. Okay. And what is the destination subnet? It is, consider that this is 192.168.1.0/24 network. Okay. So here the network ID is 192.168.1.0 is the network ID. This is the network ID. What is the subnet mask for /24? 255.255.255.0. Okay. So it is configured. So to reach the subnet, where it has to come first? This is the interface which is connected to this router, right? So here, like we have to point out next hop is nothing but what is the next point to reach the destination. Okay. So if you want to reach here, first it has to reach here, then it will come down, right?
Yes.
So this is the IP address of next hop. So that is 10.0.0.2. Is it clear?
Yes.
In similar fashion, if you have n number of subnets something to reach, this is how we configure the static route. Okay. Now, so this is fine. Okay. Now what happened? Like if X computer want to reach computer A, okay, X to A. So X to A, first it will come to this switch, and it has come to router. And the router, what is the destination subnet? This is the destination subnet, right? It will check route. It is not there, so we have to configure. So what is the destination subnet here for this router? 192.168.0.0/24. Consider that this subnet is 192.168.0.0/24 network. Okay, so it has to reach this one. So to reach that, we have to add a network ID. So we have to configure the routing table in this router also, because it want to reach here. Okay.
Okay.
So IP route, what is the destination subnet? 192.168.0.0 and subnet mask, and the next hop is 10.0.0.1. This is how it has to reach, come like this, right? That's why. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. So let's go with like when we have 3 routers. Okay. So let me mention like this. This is subnet of 192.168.0.0/24, and this is 192.168.1.0/24, and this is 192.168.3.0/24. Okay. So this is router 1, router 2, and router 3. Okay. Suppose when you are trying to access from here, okay, we need to have access this network and this network. Okay. Suppose like consider that like kind of ABC will mention A, B, C. So from A, if you want to reach B and C, okay, so we need to have routes available for these 2 networks, right? Suppose you are trying to access from A to B. Okay. So from A to B, it will come to router, In the router, we need to have routing table for this subnet. Okay, so we write the routing table like this. Okay, so here the destination subnet is IP route 192.168.1.0 network subnet mask and next hop IP address. Is it clear? Okay, now if you want to reach computer C, okay, so what is the subnet? If you want to come here, okay, if you want to come here, it is not directly connected. Okay, we have some router in between. Okay,
Yes.
so first we have to reach here. From here, again, it will come to like this. It will come to this place. Okay, so let's see that happen. Okay, so if you want to reach computer C, we have to write routing table for this subnet also, right? For this network also. So what is this network ID 192.168.3.0 and what is the subnet mask, and the next hop IP address is this only. So it is not directly connected. First, it has to come here from here to here. Okay. So if you want to reach from like A to B, fine in this routing table. Okay, but from router 2 to router 3, we need to reach, right? If you want to reach from A to C. Okay.
Yes.
So that's why in the router 2, we have configured the route for C network also. Because so once it reaches here, again it will check the routing table. Okay, from A to B is directly. So we have added the next hop and it is directly connected, it will come. But if you want to reach computer network C, so it is not connected here, right? So it will check the routing. Okay, so here also we have to route. So in the router 2, so this is the destination subnet, right? So destination subnet, next hop is, this is the IP address for this network. Clear?
Yes.
In the similar way, like if you want to reach from B to A and B to C, so from B to C, if you want to reach, okay, so here if you observe, from B to A, if you want to reach, we have to write routing table in R2 router, right? One is forwarding to next hop is, if the destination subnet is 192.168.0./24, next hop IP address is 10.0.0.1. Okay, from B to C, if you want to reach, okay, so that is 192.168.3.0 subnet. If you want to reach, the next hop IP address is 10.0.1.2. So that is why it is. This is network A and this is network C. So if you observe, that next hop is different here because it has two paths to connect A and B. But if you can say from A to C, we have only one way. So it has to come here. From here, it has to reach here. Okay. So in a similar fashion, from C to A, C to B is directly connected. Okay. This is the point. And C to A, if you want to reach, okay, so it has to come here and then from here to here.
Okay.
So based on the path, we have to configure the routing tables. This is what static route is about. Any doubts?
Yeah, I have like one doubt. If I need to like routing to A to C,
okay.
So first initially it will go to R2 router.
Yeah.
And then from R2 to R3. So here the R3 router ID is there, right? 10.0.1.2.
Yeah.
So further it will carry to 10.0.
Yeah, that's what we have the router. See, once okay. So once the traffic is coming to R1, R2 from like A to C, right? First it has to reach R2, then from R2 to R3, right? So once it is reached R2, it will check the routing table again.
Okay.
So here we need to write a route saying that if the destination subnet is this, go to here. That's what we wrote here. See, if the destination subnet is 192.168.3.0, the next hop is 10.0.1.2.
Okay.
So it will check this routing table and it will come to R3, that is subnet C.
Okay.
Clear?
Yes.
This is about static routing. Okay. And we have, like one more routing called default routing. Okay. So default routing is like when we will use, if we are not aware of the destination subnet, what to reach. Okay. In those cases, like, kind of internet, we'll go with the default routing. Okay. So suppose, so in these cases, where to reach. Okay. So, like what is the subnet, where to reach. But in case you don't know what is the subnet, okay, what is the destination subnet to reach, then in those cases we'll go for default routing. Okay, so let me tell you, with an example. So here, this is the one network, this is another network, right? So if you can see, so here from now, like A, B, C is there. Okay, from
Okay.
A to B, and we need to reach from A to B and B to C also. Okay,
Okay.
A to B, one connection is there, A to B and A to C. Okay, so here, in the static routing, what we did, we know the subnets and we route the specific routes for B route. For if we want to reach B network, like we write like IP route. Okay, what is the
Okay. Route
subnet? 192.168, 1.0,
1.0.
255, 255, and we wrote this IP address
Yeah. Yes.
10.0.0.2.
2.
And if you want to reach here, again it has to come here only. IP route 192.168, 3.0/24. Again we wrote here. Okay, so here we know where to reach, what subnets is connected to. Okay, but like if you don't know, like if it's connected to many subnets. Okay, so here if you can see, like if you're not aware of the subnets, you won't be able to configure, right? So that's why we will go for default. Okay, so IP route 0.0.0, nothing but any subnet. Okay, 0.0, any subnet mask, it has to come to this one. Okay, so here,
Okay.
so what happens if you write this route? Okay, so whatever the destination IP you are trying to access, it will forward the path to here itself.
Okay.
Okay, suppose you're trying to accessing B. Okay, for B we are not having specific route, we are having default route only. So any IP address it will take here. Okay, so any traffic, whether you are trying to connect from A to B or A to C, it has to come to this point only, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So in those cases, we write default route. Okay, so if you're trying to access either A to B or A to C, first it has to come here, right? So
Yes.
instead of keeping the static routes, we are keeping any destination IP address. It has to reach here on either B or C. That is what it means. Okay, so in the similar fashion, okay, from C, if you want to reach B or A, what is the default point here? 10.0.1.1, right?
Yeah.
If you want to reach B network from C to B, next hop is this only. From C to A
Yes.
also, next hop is this only. Okay, so like if you don't know like what destination we need to reach, that cases we'll go for, if you have only one exit point also, only one exit point, right, to reach B and C. So in those cases, we'll
Yes.
go for default routing. But so that is what we wrote here. IP route, whatever the destination IP it is, either B subnet or A subnet, it has to come to 10.0.1.1 on the C router, on the R3 router. Okay.
Okay.
But from R2, okay, so from R2 like B to A and B to C, okay, so here it's not possible to configure the default route, right? Because
Yeah.
it want to reach A means it has the next hop is this one. If you want to reach C, next hop is this one. Okay, so if you write only one path, so it won't go to the traffic here. It will come to here only. Suppose
Okay.
B to A, if you want to reach, if you write a default route like this, we have to give only one IP is the next one IP is the next hop, right? So if you give next hop IP address of only this one, okay, so each and every time if you're trying to access, it will come to here only, this router only, though you are trying to access this one. Okay, but we need to have like access to two networks, that is A and C from B. Okay, so we need to have routes enabled on the R2 router. Next hop as, if you are trying to access this network, next hop is this one. If you're trying to access this network, this is the next hop. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, so that is about default routing. Okay, so whatever command, it is the same thing. Okay, for static route or default route, but only the difference is, in case while providing the IP addresses for default route, we'll provide 0.0.0 as the network ID and subnet mask also 0.0.0.0. But next hop IP address we need to provide correctly. Okay, so that is about like default routing and static routing. Okay, so in this class we discussed about what is static route, what is routing. Okay, and what type of routing we have: static route, default route, and dynamic route. So what is static routing? We have to configure manually. And what are the advantages and disadvantages of static routing? And what is the command? Like what is the syntax to write static routes in the router?
Yeah.
This is what it is. Okay, and we went with some examples, how to configure the static routes in the routers, and we went with like 3 networks also, and we discussed about what is default. Okay, so here like I was mentioning, if destination is unknown, like mostly for internet something we will use. Okay, and default route can be used at the end locations where there is only one exit path for any destination. So here it what is mean. So only one path is there, right? For any destination IP address, that is B or C, we have only one path. Correct?
Okay. Yeah, yes.
That is what it means. Okay. And like we have a least preferred route in the routing table. Okay. Suppose we have static routes also configured, and then default route also is there. Okay. So it means that first it will check the static routes, then it will go for default route.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll be having like routing tables, right? From static routes will be there, default routes we configure, everything we can configure. So in that cases, like we'll first static routes will be checked, and then default route. Okay,
Default route.
so in this case, if we want to reach internet, right? Internet. Okay, so here what happens? We have the static routes configured to reach B and C. Okay, so
Okay.
if you want to reach B and C by using the static routes, it will go forward. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so if you want to reach internet, it will go with the default route.
Default
What we
route.
configure. Okay, that's what it means. First, it will check the static routes, then dynamic route, then default route. Okay, if the router does not found any entry on the destination network routing table, router will forward the packet to default route. Okay, so what does it mean? Suppose I know like here, okay, we have the default route configured to internet. Okay, but we miss it to add the static routes to what B and C. Okay, so then what happened? Though you are trying to access B network and C network, as there is no routes available, it will go with the default path only.
Okay.
That is what it means about default route. Okay, so any queries?
Okay. If I go through, then I will get the queries.
Yeah, please go through it and let me know in the next session. Okay,
Okay.
and in the next session we'll discuss about like what is AD value and dynamic routing protocols. There are many dynamic routing protocols we'll discuss in the next session.
Okay.
Okay, so the dynamic routing protocol is a bit bigger one. Okay,
Mhm.
so we'll discuss about all these things in the coming sessions. Once it is done, we'll go with the WAN connections and access control lists, NAT, and like hub and switch, like some simple concepts. Okay, by that we'll end with our basics. Thank you.